There it is, $36 trillion. Very recently reached this high national debt number, added about $1 trillion in the last 100 days. And this is a direct result of deficit spending, leading to the debt clock to go into hyperdrive mode as the silver to dollar ratio has increased to $1,017. Let's talk about what all of this means in this video as we explore. Here it is, $1,017 per ounce. Now that is not the price. I always feel the need to explain exactly what's happening here. Sadly, the debt clock people have stopped updating this portion of the website to reflect what these numbers mean. When you highlight over this number, it would show you an explanation. That is now gone, so I have to tell you exactly what this means. This is a ratio. And the reason why I do these videos, this is part of a series of videos that I've been doing since about 2019, is this explains exactly what's happening to silver compared to the money supply. This is a number that is far more important than the price of silver. So what does this mean? It means that there are $1,117 bills or dollars that have been digitized or printed over the course of 1 year as to the amount of silver that has been mined out of the ground globally throughout the year, according to numbers from the USGS. Now, when we take a look at the M2 money supply, we have to look at this chart here. And this is from the Federal Reserve out of St. Louis, economic data here that shows the M2 money supply. And this tells us everything we need to know. We go all the way back to before 1960, or at 1960 here, January 1959 to be exact, and we can see how fast the money supply has increased over the years. And technically, this should be pretty alarming right here. All of the spending that has occurred here. And that's with a Republican president and a democratically controlled Congress. It's upticked. It's increased pretty dramatically then. And it really pales in comparison to what happened in around June of 1995 and through the dot-com bubble. The M2 money supply increased very dramatically. And then we had quantitative easing, which happened here. This is merely a blip compared to what we're seeing in 2020, all of this money being spent and being printed and issued. This would seem to be unsustainable, but here we are, sustained debt, sustained spending, and a higher dollar to silver ratio. And if we narrow this down here through this point in time, we can see that they attempted to tighten to some degree, but the tightening stopped in October of 2023 and started to uptick at an increasing rate. And this is what has contributed to the amount of dollars that have been printed year over year compared to the amount of silver mined year over year. That's where it gets to this price. Now, I want to show you a couple of numbers here, and especially how fast this has grown and going into over $1,000 per ounce now. And that just is going to contribute to inflation. And if we look at it over the past 5 years, when you take into account what happened during the pandemic spending, it's $1,554 an ounce. There was a time when it was over $5,000 per ounce year over year. I recorded a video about that. But since we had quantitative tightening, well, let us pull back. But as you saw from this graph here, it's not by that much. And there's a lot of silver. There's a lot of silver, but there's a lot of cash flowing out there. And what do they want out of that? They want the velocity of it to increase. And they try to get this. Some of the money that was printed back here is still not being spent yet. That's right. It's crazy to think about it. You can only mine so much silver per year. That's for sure. You can only mine so much. There's only so much of it that's out there. Yea, though it's being consumed as well. And a lot of that silver is being consumed and not being recycled, even though recycling has been picking up. And that leaves us to wonder, well, if this ratio is what it is, what should the price of silver be? Well, I really don't know. I can't tell you that. But many people feel it should be closer to this number 1017 than the number where it is now. And I can understand that. I'm one of those that feels that it should be higher than where it is now. But there's a lot of different things affecting the price of silver. But make no mistake, this dollar to silver ratio is something that is far more important because it gives you an idea of the true value of silver, which again, I don't know how you're going to measure that, but I think having silver in our possession in physical form, such as you see here, in the form of constitutional silver pieces or spending silver, depending on where you're at in the world, or in the form of bars, vintage or otherwise, a lot of different ways to be able to accumulate silver, and it comes in various different forms and has been for many, many years, as you can see here by the selection of this image. It's pretty remarkable. You can also even potentially get a 1,000-ounce bar, which is a contract size bar, small contract size. A large contract is 5,000 or 5 of these bars. But it also comes in a form of American Silver Eagles, all different ways to be able to buy silver out there. You know, it's pretty remarkable, pretty amazing that with the amount of silver, how easy it is to buy and how we kind of take it for granted. Because a lot of people are selling silver, you can get it for a fairly low premium too these days. But silver is a metal that is offered from many different bullion dealers out there online, but also your local coin shop. I encourage you to go to your local coin shop, by the way, to buy silver products. My friends at Summit Metals also sell silver at a very good deal. I'm going to post a link in the description of this video to 2 specials that are happening right now you can check out from Summit Metals. Some product code you can enter in for some savings there. When we think about silver, we think about it as a metal that is consumed. It is also as a monetary metal and also as a metal that will preserve our wealth, and as a commodity, as an industrial metal. And so that being said, the price is low. The ratio is high and growing at a dramatic rate. Now, what can we conclude from this kind of these numbers? How do we digest this? When we take a look to see what the dollar to silver ratio was back in 1913, it was $2.73 per ounce. That's at the beginning of the current system from which we find ourselves apart. And I think that gives us a better insight as to even back then, when we had paper dollars, some of it not necessarily backed by the physical, more dollars is going to cause inflation, and that's going to cause the price and the ratio to go out of whack with what the actual value proposition is and how it was even denominated up until 1964. In other words, it's about 0.72 ounces of silver for every dollar that was there. So really it should be $1 and change. But it's double that in 1913. So this is a problem that's only getting worse, but it was bad back then. In fact, the Federal Reserve itself and the Federal Reserve Act itself was bad. Most of us would agree. But nonetheless, there's a lot of different things. There's manipulation as well. There are forces in that realm, suppressive forces, manipulative forces to the upside as well as downside, as we've have shown you and with J.P. Morgan's crimes there with manipulation. But when we look at this ratio, the another thing that's contributing, I think, to some of this is the paper to silver ratio. There's about 410 paper versions or electronic versions in reality of those. In other words, derivatives for every 1 ounce of silver that's being traded. And so that is contributing to some of the price action and movement in both directions there. High frequency trades, and we don't have drop it, it can happen so quickly and move the price dramatically one way or another. When we look at the dollar to silver ratio over the past 5 years, we can see that it is indeed well above, and even over the last 10 years, it's well above. This is being hampered back by some of what we've seen over the recent years with some attempt at quantitative tightening here. A very mild attempt, as you can see here by this graph. But nonetheless, hold your silver, because I do think that sooner or later something's got to give, and something will give in our current monetary system. And this debt that's growing at an alarming pace, $36 trillion, well, that variable could change too if Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, is successful at doing what they say. Even so, it's only going to bring down the deficit spending, and that will at least slow the debt for the first part of this as we move through. It's going to be a long process, but if we can slow down this national debt and stop this deficit spending, that is going to send us on a good course, which could strengthen the dollar, even with the amount of them that are out there, and increase the velocity of money. If you increase the velocity of this M2 money supply, that's going to strengthen the dollar, and that means lower gold and silver prices. So conceivably, the takeaway from this video is, if things go well in 2025 with Doge and cut spendings and regulations from the government, and we get the dollar velocity going, even at the amount that are still being printed, we could actually see this number go up and silver's price fall. Yes, it could actually fall some. I don't think it'll fall by a whole lot, but that is very conceivable. In fact, we have seen that in the past. In fact, dramatically so. With this number was at $5,000 per ounce, and the price of silver was much less than where it is today. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I hope you will check the other videos in this playlist for an historic record of what's been happening with the dollar to silver ratio since 2019. And I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.